The same may be true, as has often been suggested, of energy and the causality of external objects. We project the feelings of physio-psychic tension, impulses, willful action, onto the objects, and if we place these interpretative categories behind their immediate perceptibility, then we orientate ourselves towards them according to the emotional experiences of our inner nature. Perhaps this is how one comes across the opposite interrelationship as soon as one hits the substantiality of a deeper stratum below that primary symbolization of the inner life. If we characterize a mental experience as an association of conceptions, then this knowledge is achieved according to spatial categories. Yet perhaps this category of association itself gains its meaning and significance in a merely internal and in no way visible process. What we characterize as association in the external world, that is as entities somehow unified and existing in each other, actually always remain adjacent to each other, and in referring to this association we mean something that we can project only from within ourselves into the object, something that is incomparable to everything external, namely the symbol for what we are unable to state and what cannot immediately be expressed. Thus there exists a relativism, an unending process between internal and external life, the one as the symbol of the other, making it conceivable and representable, being neither the first nor the second, but realizing the unity of their, that is, our, being by their mutual dependency. The mental and physical aspects of existence are all the more open to this mutual symbolizing interpretation the simpler they are. In the simple processes of association, fusion and reproduction of notions we can adhere to the idea of a general lawfulness of form that calls for an analogous response from both the inner and the outer world and thus makes the one the suitable representative of the other. Characterization in terms of analogies of spatial vividness becomes more difficult for more complicated and distinctive mental forms. It becomes more dependent upon its applicability to a large number of instances, in order not to appear arbitrary and playful and in order to possess a secure, though only symbolic, relationship to psychological reality. Starting out from itself, this psychological reality will find the comprehension of things, the interpretation of their own meaning and significance, all the more difficult and uncertain the more specialized or complex are the processes on both sides. For the mysterious identity of form in internal and external phenomena, which provides a bridge from the one to the other, becomes less probable and more difficult to conceive. This is intended as an introduction to considerations that should encompass a series of various internal cultural phenomena and thereby make it clear that they all belong to one and the same style of life, because they all allow for an interpretation according to one and the same illustrative analogy. One of the most frequent images that is used to illustrate the organization of life's elements is their arrangement in a circle with the individual at its center. There is a type of relationship between this self and objects, people, ideas and interests that we can characterize only as distance between the two. Whatever our object may be, it can, with its content remaining unchanged, move closer to the center or to the periphery of our sphere of interests and concerns. But this does not bring about a change in our inner relationship to this object. On the contrary, we can characterize certain relationships between the self and its contents only by the illustrative symbol of a definite or changing distance between the two. From the very outset, a symbolic expression for a verbally inexpressible state of affairs is created when we divide our inner existence into a central self and a surrounding array of contents. In view of the tremendous differences in sensory external impressions of things according to their distance from our sensory organs, differences not only in distinctness, but also in the quality and whole character of the images received, an extension of this symbolization suggests itself whereby the diversity of the innermost relationship to objects is interpreted as a diversity in our distance from them. From among the phenomena that, from this standpoint, form a unified series, I first wish to emphasize that of art. The inner significance of artistic styles can be interpreted as a result of the differences in distance that they produce between ourselves and objects. All art changes the field of vision in which we originally and naturally place ourselves in relation to reality. On the one hand, art brings us closer to reality, it places us in a more immediate relationship to its distinctive and innermost meaning. Behind the cold strangeness of the external world it reveals to us the spirituality of existence, through which it is related and made intelligible to us. In addition, however, all art brings about a distancing from the immediacy of things. It allows the concreteness of stimuli to recede and stretches a veil between us and them, just like the fine bluish haze that envelopes distant mountains. There are equally strong attractions on both sides of this duality of effects. The tension between them, their distribution over the wide variety of demands upon the work of art, gives a specific character to each artistic style. Indeed, the mere existence of style is in itself one of the most significant instances of distancing. Style, as the manifestation of our inner feelings, indicates that these feelings no longer immediately gush out but take on a disguise the moment they are revealed. Style, as the general form of the particular, is a veil that imposes a barrier and a distance in relation to the recipient of the expression of these feelings. Even naturalism, which specifically aims at overcoming the distance between us and reality, conforms to this basic principle of all art, to bring us closer to things by placing them at a distance from us. For only by self-deception do we fail to recognize that naturalism is also a style, that is, that it too organizes and remodels the immediacy of impressions on the basis of quite definite presuppositions and demands. This is irrefutably demonstrated by the course of art history, in which everything that one era considers to be a faithful and true picture of reality is recognized by a later period to be highly prejudiced and falsified, whereas this later period now claims to present things as they really are. Artistic realism makes the same mistake as scientific realism by assuming that it can dispense with an a priori, with a form that, springing from the inclinations and needs of our nature, provides a robe or a metamorphosis for the world of our senses. This transformation that reality suffers on its way to our consciousness is certainly a barrier between us and its immediate existence, but is at the same time the precondition for our perception and representation of it. Indeed, in a certain sense naturalism may bring about a quite distinctive distancing from things if we observe its preference for the objects of everyday life, for the trite and the banal. For since naturalism is undoubtedly a stylization too, this style is more appreciated by a refined artistic sense, which sees art as lying in the work of art and not, by whatever method it may be represented, in its object if it is executed on some immediate, raw, earthly material. Modern tendencies towards the increase and diminution of this distance on the whole, the aesthetic interest of recent times has tended towards an increase in the distance produced by transposing objects into art. I have in mind the tremendous attraction that artistic styles far removed both in time and space have for the artistic sense of our time. Many lively, stimulating notions are aroused by what is far away, and this satisfies our many-sided need for stimulation, although, because of the absence of any relationship to our most personal and direct interests, all these strange and distant notions have a faint ring about them and are therefore more than a comforting stimulation for weakened nerves. What we today call the historical spirit perhaps not only is a favorable condition for this phenomenon, but also has the same origin. Through the wealth of inner relationships to spatially and temporally far removed interests, the historical spirit makes us more sensitive towards shocks and confusions that come to us from direct proximity and contact with people and things. The flight from the present is made easier, is less of a loss, and is to some extent justified if it leads to the recognition and enjoyment of concrete realities, even though they are far away and can be experienced only very indirectly. Out of this process there springs the present vividly felt charm of the fragment, the mere allusion, the aphorism, the symbol, the undeveloped artistic style.